I want you to imagine, just for a moment, a scenario that sounds, well, completely mad. Picture a film so revolutionary that it basically invented the language of modern romance on screen. I want you to picture a piece of high art that is sophisticated, cosmopolitan, overflowing with wit and this elegant irony. A film that took the raw, sort of unpolished clay of early cinema and sculpted it into the very first proper comedy of manners. We are talking about the absolute genesis of the genre.
Oh, give it a rest, will you? Making it sound like the second comedy. It's not the invention of the wheel, mate. It's a 100-year-old silent film that's dodgy in places, and let's be honest, mostly obscure for a very, very good reason.
Obscure. It is a misunderstood masterpiece. It is the cornerstone of high art in Northern Europe.
It's absolute rubbish, is what it is. You're calling it revolutionary, but I'm looking at the reality here. It's a dusty relic from 1920, where people in fancy costumes walk into rooms, strike a pose, and then look at each other for 2 hours.
That is such a cynical, reductivist way to view history. You are completely ignoring the massive influence this work had. We were talking about the film that paved the way for Ernst Lubitsch, for Jean Renoir.
Cinema, the magic vehicle, a comprehensive guide. Journey 1, 1913 to 1950.
If this film didn't exist, the rules of the game wouldn't exist.
Right, but has anyone listening, actually, have you sat down and watched it without checking your phone? Because here's the paradox, isn't it? You're sitting there waxing lyrical about its massive influence, but almost no one has seen it. If it were that properly genius, it wouldn't need you dusting it off and begging people to care, would it?
It needs duster off because the modern audience has had their attention spans decimated. They've lost the appreciation for nuance. That is exactly why we are having this conversation, to guide you, yes, you, into a world of high art that you didn't know you were missing.
Or to warn them that they're in for a lecture on old things.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just saying, if you're expecting Marvel, turn off now. If you're expecting a laugh at how mental the film industry was in 1920, well, stay tuned.
They will gain a new understanding of cinematic history. They will see the birth of sophistication.
They'll see a bit of rich people behaving badly, is what they'll see. It's over the top, it's a bit rich, and frankly, the title alone.
Don't you dare start on the title yet.
Right.
We are setting the scene. We are transporting the listener to Stockholm.
Right, Stockholm, the party capital of 1920.
We are going to unpack the context, the marital square, not triangle, square, and the sheer audacity of this production. But first, we have to look at the state of the world this film was born into. Because it wasn't just art, it was a battle for survival.
It was panic, pure and simple.
It was strategy. So let's unpack this properly. The year is 1919 going into 1920. The location is Sweden. And the film industry is undergoing this massive transformation. You have the merger of Svenska Bio and the younger, more vigorous Scandia production company.
It sounds like a corporate acquisition you'd read about in the Financial Times. Thrilling stuff. Company A buys Company B. Why does this matter?
It matters because of why they did it. This merger formed Svensk Film Industry, or SF. And at the helm, you have this visionary leader, the producer and director Charles Magnusson. He wasn't just creating a company, he was creating a new enterprise. He had them making about 20 films a year.
Which is an insane number for the time.
Yeah.
Just churning them out. It's a factory line. That's not art, that's manufacturing.
It's prolific. It showed ambition.
It showed desperation. Look at the context, mate. You're glossing over the terrifying reality of the market. The First World War had just ended. Europe is exhausted. And what happened immediately after the armistice?
The borders opened up.
Exactly. And through those borders came the Americans. The expansion of American films into the world market was aggressive. Hollywood was coming, and they were bringing the heavy artillery glamour budget stars.
That is true. The American expansion dealt a heavy blow to the Swedish industry. They were being squeezed out of their own market.
Exactly. So this merger, this visionary enterprise you're talking about, it wasn't about high art. It was a defensive maneuver. They were terrified. They were looking at the receipts and realizing that American glamour was crushing them. They had to scale up or die.
But look at the strategy Magnusson employed to fight back. That is where the genius lies. He didn't try to outdo the Americans with action or westerns. He realized that the best way to fight this competition was not with weighty dramas, which is what Sweden was known for.
Right. Miserable people in the snow. Victor Sjöström staring at the wind.
Sjöström is a genius, but yes, it was heavy. Magnusson realized they couldn't just do that anymore. But he also knew they couldn't just do flashy experiments. I mean, look at what else was coming out. You had Benjamin Christensen's Häxan in 1921.
Now, that is a film. A semi-documentary reconstruction of the history of black magic. Witches, devils, mass hysteria. That sounds properly entertaining. I'd watch that over a dinner party any day. That is how you compete with Hollywood. You get weirder than them.
But that was a massive risk. It was an expensive experiment. Magnuson realized that to win back the lost audiences, the broad audiences, they needed something else. They needed light comedies.
They need to sell out.
It wasn't selling out. It was pivoting to sophistication. He wanted to create pictures that were lavish. He commissioned a screen adaptation of a Hungarian vaudeville production.
Hungarian vaudeville. It sounds like a bad Eurovision entry.
It was the play A Kikroka by Ferenc Herzog, and the goal was to create something that felt international, something that could stand toe-to-toe with the American imports.
So instead of weighty dramas about the human soul or cool movies about witches, they decided, let's make a film about rich people having affairs.
A marital square, if you please.
Which sounds rather dull compared to a witch trial, doesn't it?
It sounds elegant. A marital triangle is suitable for somber drama, yes. But a marital square, that cannot be treated other than lightly. It requires wit. It requires a delicate touch.
It requires a lot of people walking in and out of doors and misunderstanding each other.
You are hopeless. But fine, let's drop the veil. Let's tell them what this masterpiece is called.
Go on then, say it. I've been waiting for this.
The film is Erotikon, directed by Mauritz Stiller, released in 1920.
Erotikon. You can't be serious. It sounds like something you'd find at a dodgy video shop in Soho in the 80s. Have you seen Erotikon? No. Mate, I keep it under the mattress.
It comes from the Greek word for love. It implies sensuality, not a filth. It connects to the classical concept of eros.
It sounds a bit dodgy, you have to admit. For a comedy of manners, giving it a title like that, it's basically clickbait, isn't it? 1920s clickbait. They slapped a racy title on it to get people into the seats because they were terrified of the Americans.
It was provocative, and it signaled to the audience that this wasn't going to be a story about peasants starving in the winter. This was going to be about desire.
And money. Loads of money.
The production values were absolutely sublime. This is where the budget went. Stiller didn't just want to make a comedy, he wanted to make a spectacle. The sets. Oh, the sets. They were described as lavish, splendid. He was bringing true cosmopolitanism to Swedish cinema.
Hold on a second. Cosmopolitanism. Let's look at the reality here. You've got the critics of 1921 people who were actually there, living in Stockholm, and what do they say? They argued that no academic in Sweden could possibly afford an apartment like that.
It was heightened reality.
It was complete fantasy. The main character is a professor of entomology. He studies bugs. In what universe does a bug professor live in a palace with giant chandeliers and velvet drapes? It's a shambles of realism.
It is not a documentary about academic salaries. You are missing the entire point of the genre. It is an elegant comedy. It's meant to be zany. The audience in 1920 had just come out of a world war and the Spanish flu. They didn't want to see a cramped flat. They wanted to see the high life.
Zany. That's a convenient word for lying about the economy.
Stiller was accused of cosmopolitanism as if it were a crime, but he was creating an escape. The critics said it was complete fantasy, yes, but they missed the point.
Did they? Or did they spot that it was just an empty piece of entertainment? Look at the pretty dresses. Ignored that the plot makes no sense. It was accused of being shallow, and looking at the description, I reckon they were spot on.
It is not empty. It is a zany, sophisticated, and elegant comedy of manners.
Just because you keep saying elegant doesn't make it true. It's a soap opera with better furniture.
Well, let's look at the soap opera then. Let's talk about the story. The marital square.
Oh God, the square. It's a shambles.
It is a geometric dance of irony. So we have the four main characters. First, Professor Leo Charpentier,
The Bugman,
the absent-minded professor of entomology,
who apparently makes a fortune looking at beetles. It's mental. He prefers insects to his wife. That's the setup. I'd rather look at this cockroach than talk to you, Dark.
It establishes his character. He is detached. He lives in the world of science, viewing the world through a lens, while his wife, Irene.
Irene. The bored and flirtatious wife.
She has high social ambitions. She is trapped in a marriage where she is second fiddle to a collection of butterflies.
She's high maintenance is what she is. She's bored, so she flirts with everyone. She's the classic neglected wife trope, but with more fur coats.
She is complex. And then we have Preben Wells.
The sculptor. Of course it's a sculptor. Couldn't be a plumber, could it? It has to be an artist with angst.
Preben is in love with Irene, and the feeling is mutual.
But he's a jealous piece of work, isn't he? He's not a romantic hero. He's a stalker with a chisel.
He's passionate.
And then, just to make it a proper mess, we have Martha, the niece.
The professor's niece. She wants her uncle to devote more attention to herself and less to his insects and his spouse.
Which is a bit dodgy, isn't it? I mean, she's the niece, and she's trying to edge out the wife. It's weird.
It wasn't uncommon in literature of the time. It's a classic setup.
It's weird, mate. It's just weird. So you've got the bug man, the high-maintenance wife, the jealous sculptor, and the scheming niece. A roll call of dysfunction, I'd call it.
And don't forget Baron Felix.
The suspected rival.
Yeah.
The man who isn't even really doing anything, but everyone thinks he is.
Precisely. And this leads to the plot dynamics, which are fueled by sexual innuendos and constant misunderstandings. It is a comedy of errors, a dance.
It's a farce. Listen to this plot point. You simply cannot defend this. The jealous sculptor, Preben, believes he has a rival in Baron Felix. He thinks the Baron is also sleeping with Irene. So what does he do? Does he talk to Irene? No. Does he talk to the Baron? No. He tries to make the professor, the husband, challenge the Baron to a duel.
He is trying to defend the honor of the woman he loves through the agency of her husband. It is ironic. It's a perfect satirical jab at social norms.
Are you joking? Excuse me, Professor. I'm sleeping with your wife, but I think that bloke might be sleeping with her too, so could you go and shoot him for me? It's mental. It's absolute madness.
It highlights the absurdity of social conventions. Stiller is mocking the concept of honor and dueling.
It highlights that the sculptor is a lunatic. And it's unsuccessful, obviously, because the professor's too busy looking at bugs to care about shooting barons.
Which brings us to the resolution, the solution.
The solution. This is the bit that really got me. I actually laughed out loud reading this, not because it's funny, but because it's so cynical.
It is modern. They decide that divorce is the better solution.
Groundbreaking.
It was for 1920, but look at the swap. The sculptor marries Irene. Love wins.
Does it? The sculptor gets the high-maintenance wife. Good luck to him. But what about the professor? This is the kicker.
The professor is consoled by his attractive niece.
Consoled. Yeah, right. But here's the spot-on observation from the source material. The niece is described as an enthusiastic cook with expensive tastes.
A delightful combination.
A bankrupting combination. The source explicitly says she is going to cost him a lot of money. So the professor isn't better off. He's just swapped a bored wife for an expensive cook who's also his niece. He's going to be broken fed.
That is the brilliance of the irony. The professor thinks he has found peace, but he has simply traded one form of high maintenance for another. It's a perfect cyclical joke.
It's cynical. It's not a happy ending. It's a financial disaster for the professor. It's a bleak little commentary.
It is a zany ending.
It's a shambles.
But you are missing the way it is told. We have to talk about the cinematic language. Stiller wasn't just pointing a camera at a stage play. He was innovating.
Here we go. The genius technique.
It is genius. Take the opera scene. There is a play within a play.
A classic trope. Shakespeare did it. Hardly revolutionary.
But Stiller uses the events on the stage as an oblique comment on the actions of the real-life characters in the audience. The drama on stage mirrors the drama in the box seats. It creates a multi-layered reality. It's a dialogue between art and life.
It's a bit on the nose, isn't it? Look, they're acting out betrayal on stage, and we are doing betrayal in the audience.
Subtlety wasn't Stiller's strong suit, was it?
It was incredibly sophisticated for 1920. And then there is the metaphor of the entomology. You were mocking the bugs earlier, but you missed the symbol.
Oh, the bugs again. Go on, tell me how the cockroaches are actually a metaphor for the soul.
Think about it. The professor uses a magnifying glass to study his insects. He observes them coldly, scientifically.
Because they are small. That's how science works. You need to see them.
No. It is a visual metaphor. Just as the professor studies bugs under a glass, Stiller, the director, is studying these humans under the cinematic lens. He is placing them under the microscope. We, the audience, or the entomologists, observing this marital square scurrying around like ants.
That is a massive stretch, mate. You're reading way too much into a prop. It's a magnifying glass because he's an old man looking at beetles. Not everything is deep. That is the difference between us. You see a prop, I see a symbol. This detached observation is what defines the film. It's not emotional, it's analytical.
I see what's on the screen. And you know what else is on the screen? Or rather, what's in the book about the screen? The flaws.
Every masterpiece has quirks.
Quirks. Let me quote the source text directly here. Cinema, the magic vehicle, which you seem to treat as a holy Bible, says the film suffers from rather long-winded dialogues and insufficient characterization. Even the book says it drags.
Hear me out.
long-winded dialogues in a silent film. Do you know how boring you have to be called long-winded when you aren't even speaking? It means endless title cards. You're reading a novel, not watching a film.
You are cherry-picking. The source also says these flaws are well compensated by the energetic narrative and fine humor.
Well compensated is critic code for, it was boring, but I chuckled twice. It's polite speak for a slog.
It says fine humor. It says Stiller handles the story very well. It compares his skill to René Clair's The Italian Straw Hat.
Yeah.
That is high praise.
René Clair is fine, but admitting the characterization is insufficient proves my point. These aren't real people. They are cardboard cutouts in expensive clothes. The bored wife, the jealous artist, the absent-minded professor, they are cliches.
They are archetypes. That is how comedy of manners works. And clearly it worked because the expectations of Magnuson, the boss of the studio, were fulfilled. Erotikon was a success.
It made money. That doesn't make it art. Transformers made money.
It saved the studio, it validated the strategy, and its legacy. Well, this is where I play my trump card. You cannot argue with this.
Go on then, drop the big name. I know you're dying to.
Jean Renoir.
Of course.
Jean Renoir, one of the greatest directors of all time, considered Erotikon the origin, the absolute source of the trend that led to the intelligent American comedies of Ernst Lubitsch.
The Lubitsch touch.
Yes.
Lady Windermere's fan and all that.
Yes. And eventually to Renoir's own masterpiece, The Rules of the Game.
Which is a savage film. I will give you that. A proper masterpiece.
Renoir saw Erotikon and saw the blueprint for analyzing society. He saw that you could look at the rich and powerful and laugh at them.
I'll give you Renoir. He's a heavy hitter. But just because something is an origin doesn't mean it holds up today. The Model T Ford is the origin of the Ferrari, but I wouldn't want to drive one on the M25. It's a museum piece.
But The Rules of the Game is a savagely ironic portrayal of a society running out of control, and Erotikon is the seed of that.
But is it? The source says Erotikon treats the characters with irony, but without a trace of social criticism. See, that's the difference. Rules of the Game has bite. It attacks the social structure. It shows the rot underneath. Erotikon just washes it. It's without a trace of social criticism. It's just rich people playing musical chairs with their marriages. It's toothless.
I disagree. The lack of overt criticism is the criticism. By presenting this absurdity without comment, Stiller is inviting us to judge them. He's holding up a mirror.
Or he was just too scared to offend the rich people buying the tickets. It was a commercial product, remember? Magnuson wanted money. You don't get money by insulting the audience.
You are impossible. You refuse to see the artistry.
I'm realistic. And let's look at what happened to Stiller after this. If he was such a genius, surely he went on to dominate the world.
Well, it is a tragedy, really.
It's a swan song.
He achieved results of comparable quality only once more. In Gustav Berling's Saga in 1924.
Based on Selma Lagerlöf. Heavy stuff again. Back to the snow.
And that film gave us Greta Garbo. She had her first important part there. That's his legacy, too.
True. Stiller gave us Garbo. I'll give him credit for that. But after that,
it was the end.
The source calls it the swan song, not only of Stiller, but also of that entire period of Swedish cinema.
It breaks my heart.
The renewal didn't come for another quarter of a century. So basically, they had this brief moment of cosmopolitan comedy, panic-induced pivoting, and then nothing for 25 years. The industry lost its way.
Or perhaps the industry was simply overwhelmed by the global tides. It's not one film's fault.
Or maybe, just maybe, pivoting to light comedies to chase the American dollar killed the artistic soul of the period. They stopped making weighty dramas and flashy experiments like Hexen, which were actually interesting, and started making fluff like Erotikon, and then the industry died. Coincidence.
That is a harsh interpretation. Erotikon saved the studio in 1920. It kept the lights on.
For a few years.
Oh.
And then the lights went out.
No, Erotikon remains a beacon. It is a lavish screen adaptation. It is a testament to what Swedish cinema could be: witty, elegant, worldly.
It's a testament to a bug professor marrying his cook.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Why should you care about a silent film from 1920?
You shouldn't.
You should. You should care. Because if you watch Erotikon, you are seeing the DNA of every romantic comedy you have ever loved. You are seeing the moment cinema realized it could be sophisticated. You are seeing the lavish escape that audiences in 1920 desperately needed, and maybe we need today.
Or you should watch it, only if you have a very high tolerance for people in fancy sets talking for too long about bugs and divorce. If you want to see where cinema went wrong, where it chose style over substance, this is Exhibit A.
I implore you to watch it. Look for the play within a play. Look for the irony.
Look for the exit.
But I want to leave you with a final thought, a provocation. We know that Erotikon was a strategic pivot to save the studio from American competition.
A desperate pivot.
But ask yourself this. If Erotikon hadn't saved the studio with light comedy, would Swedish cinema have survived the American expansion at all? Would we even be talking about Swedish film history if they hadn't made this sellout move? Or did selling out to comedy actually kill the artistic soul of the period, as my cynical friend here suggests?
Bloody hell, let's go to the pub. I need a drink after all that talk of marital square.
It's a masterpiece.
It's a shambles.